Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and turn on post notifications. So I have a really quick question for you guys, and you can answer it in the comments or what. But have you ever seen the original Scream movie? The one with, Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard. Well, guess what? They are not the only people to kill somebody so brutally. So on September 22nd, 2006, it happened to 16-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart. She was found brutally murdered in a relative's home that she had actually been house sitting for. And she actually knew the two people that killed her. Her gruesome murder acts absolutely shocked her small, quiet town of Ponticello, Idaho. Small community where she lived, these crimes didn't happen. But on Friday the morning of September 22nd at 8:28 a.m. at her high school, as she was putting her books in her locker, she was actually wearing jeans, a green shirt, and a white jacket as she stopped unpacking her books to briefly say a quick hi to a camera. So someone at school had been going around with a video camera, just filming everybody. So later that same day, Cassie's mom, Anna Stoddart, picked Cassie and her boyfriend at the time, Matt Beckham, up from school around 3:45 and dropped both Cassie and her boyfriend Matt off at this relative's house that she was house sitting for. And she dropped them off around 5:30. So Anna actually checked in with her daughter later that night around 9:30, and Cassie told her mom that her and Matt were just watching movies and she'd call her mom the next day. It would actually be the last time that Anna's mother would speak to her daughter. The house that Matt and Cassie were at, the electricity just went out. This freaked Cassie out, of course, and she asked Matt if he could stay the night with her. Matt then called his mom to ask if he could, and she said it wasn't okay. However, Matt's mom did say that Cassie could come over and stay with them, and that she would drive her back to the house in the morning, but then the power came back on, and Cassie dismissed Matt's mom's offer completely. Not long after the power came back on, Matt's mom actually came and picked him up, leaving Cassie alone in the house. And that would be the last time Matt and his mother would see Cassie alive. Matt says he did try to call Cassie around 12:30 in the morning, but she never answered the phone. And just 2 days later, when relatives came home, those relatives that she'd been house sitting for all weekend, or they assumed she'd been house sitting with all weekend, they called 911 when they returned home, saying over the phone, "There's a dead girl on my floor and she's missing a finger." Idaho State Police Captain John Gansky said that Cassie had been stabbed numerous times. He also said that from looking at the crime scene, you could tell that Cassie put up an extreme fight. She actually fought for her life. She fought against her attackers for her life. Investigators actually couldn't find the knife that had been used to kill Cassie, and there were no signs of forced entry. There was also no clear motive as to who killed Cassie or why they would kill Cassie, because she was well liked at school. And then they were also puzzled about the brief power outage. And investigators took fingerprints from the fuse box and actually found a clear set that matched her mother's boyfriend. But her mother's boyfriend had an alibi for the night of the murder and said his prints were found because he had done some work on the house in the past for these relatives. Detectives also took a very, very hard look at Matt, Cassie's boyfriend, and that's normal in cases like this, especially if the significant other is the last person to see them alive. What's actually really sad about this is that they were actually the ones to break the news to Matt that Cassie had been murdered. And Police Captain John Gansky said about this, "Of course we had to break the news to Matt that his girlfriend had been murdered. And it sticks in my mind that Matt didn't show a great deal of emotion at all, and that was something of a red flag." But we do have to keep in mind, and it's such a normal thing in these true crime cases, where the significant other or somebody that really loved the person is told that they're murdered, and they immediately just don't show any emotion. And that for some reason makes police immediately believe that they did something and stuff like that. But sometimes people just don't react in the way you think, and everyone has a different reaction to being told that someone you love has been murdered or they've died. And so can we not blame Matt for acting that way? And we now know that it wasn't even Matt that did this. So investigators on Cassie's case actually had Matt take a polygraph test which are not very accurate and actually aren't used in court, but they do help determine certain points for the investigators to continue their investigation. Gansky, however, said that Matt passed with flying colors. Matt said something during his polygraph test that would actually break the case, give them a whole new lead on it. Okay? Matt had told detectives that on the night that Cassie was murdered, September 22nd, two of their friends, Brian Draper and Cera Addair, had also briefly been at the house. These two friends come over. The two 16-year-old boys had actually stopped by to hang out around 8:20 p.m. And watched Kill Bill Volume 2 before they left around 9:30, which is around the time that Cassie's mother called. So, when investigators actually interrogated Brian and Tori, they told them that they'd let the house to go watch a movie at the movie theater. But it would go, neither twin was able to say what movie they watched and what that movie was about. And an employee at the movie theater, who just happened to go to school with these kids, all four of them, told investigators that, with certainty, that neither of the boys had been at the theater on September 22nd. So, when Brian was confronted with this lie, he admitted that they hadn't been at the movies and said he'd been lying because they had been breaking into cars and didn't want to get into trouble. Okay? And investigators set him up to do a polygraph test. But before the test began, Brian got very emotional and said he needed to speak to investigators and detectives. So, Brian and his parents were pulled into a room, and Brian recounted how he and Tori had gone back to the house at night to turn the power off and try to scare Cassie, wearing masks to disguise their identity, but he claimed he was surprised when Tori started to stab her for real. Brian said it wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a joke. So, he actually eventually led detectives to an area near Black Rock Canyon where the two had actually buried evidence from the crime. It was then that investigators had discovered just how sinister their murder had been. Like I said at the beginning of this video, Scream had a big part of why this murder played out the way that it did. And so in the movie, in 1996's Scream, Neve Campbell actually plays Sidney Prescott. She's the main character, and she is absolutely terrorized by two men in a mask, which just so happened to be her boyfriend and his best friend. And if you've ever seen the movie, you know how brutal the murders were in that movie, as it is in its subsequent 5 sequels since 1996. The most recent one coming out this year. I think it literally came out just a couple months ago. So, Brian and Tori had actually seen the original Scream movie and had decided to create their own real-life version of Ghostface. And in their version of this messed up and fucked up version of Scream, they decided to target Cassie for the simple reason that they knew she would be home alone. They had even filmed themselves preparing for the chilling mission in a videotape that they had actually tried to burn after the murder. But investigators were able to recover the footage which had captured Cassie's last day. And the videotape began with the footage of Cassie at the high school saying hello to the camera, like mentioned earlier. Her two killers had filmed her the entire day before they murdered her. And then the clip goes from Cassie saying hello to the camera to Brian and Tori in the school's library, where they had made a death list of hopeful victims and talked about the plan for the night. "I'm sorry," Brian says to the camera. "I'm sorry to Cassie's family, but she had to be the one. We have to stick with the plan." The video continues on to see the two boys drop by the house Cassie would be house sitting, so they could get a feel for the house's layout and unlock a basement door, so that they would be able to sneak back in later after they left from watching Kill Bill 2. Video, we actually get to hear Brian say, "Unfortunately, we have the grueling task of killing our friends." As they laid in wait for near the house Cassie was in. Investigators actually do believe that Brian and Tori would have killed Matt if it hadn't been for his mom picking him up, which left Cassie to be their only victim. So if you think about it, if Matt's mom had said yes to him staying with Cassie, or if Cassie had just said yes to going to Brian's house and staying the night with them, Cassie wouldn't have been killed, or she would have been killed later on. So, Brian and Tori, just like Stu and Billy in the Scream movie, put on some masks, put on gloves, carrying hunting knives. The pair viciously stabbed their terrified friend to death after they had snuck in after Matt left and turned the power back off. And in the video, after they killed Cassie, they said, we're sick psychopaths who get pleasure out of killing other people. We want to be just like Scream. So, with the absolute massive pile of evidence that these boys had against them, authorities had all they needed to convict these two boys of first-degree murder. Both were sentenced in 2007 to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Brian actually spoke about the murder 15 years after it happened and actually said, I felt like a nobody, and I felt like I'd be somebody if I did, big and bad. He also says to this day he carried regret for taking Cassie's life. And Brian also said to all the kids who feel like they were outcast, it's not too late for all the kids out there who are thinking about that stuff now. It's not too late, man, to get engaged in your life and try to improve your life and better your life. But for Cassie, she would actually never get engaged or even graduate to high school, all because two of her so-called friends felt like they deserved to be something in life. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I don't care that he has stated that he carries so much regret for Cassie's death. I do not care. I do not give a rat's ass. I think it is such a shitty thing to do, to kill your friend, film it, film everything leading up to it and everything after, and then try to burn it, bury the evidence, and then lie to police about it. All because you want to be like Billy and Stu. What happened to Billy and Stu? If you guys have seen the movie, you know what happens to Billy and Stu in that movie. They get fucked over. Billy gets shot in the head. Stu, I don't know if he's alive or not. I haven't watched the other 4 movies that came out after it. 5 movies, whatever. But those two boys got what they deserved. Cassie never got to live her full life or anything like that. So yeah. But that is the murder that was inspired by Scream. That took a young girl's life when she didn't deserve it. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, you guys can indeed recommend a video for me to do. It doesn't have to be true crime. It can be paranormal. It can be conspiracy. It can be any video you want me guys to do. Just go to my banner, click on the little Google form thing, fill it out. I get notifications when you send me them. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.